Good afternoon. This is your crypto day afternoon. Much later than normal, and it's not going to be a new thing. Although later times, a couple of things made this video later. The first one is the changing of the times. As far as I'm concerned, it's 11:06 a.m., but the official time is 12:06 p.m. New York City time. And all trades bets of the like, that's within each's own risk and that of their own reward. However, we're in hyper time, as I call it, which is the several days before and after the March and September equinox, I think. And that's where we stand right now, 10 days before. So for the next 3 weeks or so, if you, I have to think anywhere north of Florida and the equivalency, you should notice, and the more north you are, the more you're going to notice it, the amount of how much earlier the sun is just rising and rising, and how that will be the case for how much extra it's going to be, and then it'll continue being an extra amount until June 21st, but at slower rates of intervals, and then come September, the reverse. But for now, I'm going to start off with BNB, as one of the things that made this later is I was just going over strategy with a student, basically, or a friend. And so basically both. And one of the things was, okay, for Binance, you're going to need to deposit X amount of Bitcoin in. And then one of the first things I said is you're going to need to buy one BNB. Then I looked at this chart. I'm like, holy crap. Really? Wow. And I was not even looking at it. I'm not trading it. That's because I'm not really doing much on there. It's really only Komodo and Theta that I really am working with on that site at this time. I even removed the hedge that I had for physical precious metals. So therefore, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, you know what? It's got pretty low rake as it is. It's a little overextended, and it could easily still go higher. However, it is expensive. And if you're buying this for cheap rake and it ends up going down in here, technically your rake will become a little more expensive. But if if you get 50% off the rake, technically speaking, if it goes down here, you're back to subpar. The way I look at it is I hardly got any at all. I might have, well, I had to buy one somewhere back in here because I ran out. And I still got 0.7, 0.8 of it left, 0.6 or something. But it's going to be cheaper if the price goes up when I make trades. I'll take less BNB out of my account when the value of it rises. So that's all fine and dandy for the very little that I have. But, well, obviously it has had an amazing run from these lows. That was the weekly chart. On the daily, we can see that at the start of December, it established this level of resistance. And oh my goodness, so you talk about transitioning, and I mean, it took one one higher high, a matching high, another higher high, and technically even another higher high before it was even able to then thereafter break above it, which it did so on January 17th. And since then, higher low, yeah, higher matching low, either way, still productive. I mean, this is barely a low. It's definitely in need of a pullback in the 18 correction. Even a little small pierce coming back to this, whatever. But let's move on. This is Binance Coin BNB. We'll look at Theta next at 4,100 Satoshi. And one of the things that my strategy has is good luck, bad luck. Overall, it works out. I wanted to sell pierce below this high, and I did so at 35.90. So I did so on this point in here. I was looking for a larger pierce below. I was looking to buy here at the highest. Pullback didn't qualify. My next sell was about 55. And yesterday's high, 52.29. Noticeably piercing below. So be it. Now it's back to where it came from. One of the things I was stating in here was I don't see this big volume at this top here. We can see when this came in, it was just matching its previous day's volume. I'm looking when this thing has any type of decent top for it to have significant volume, which means when you look back at charts and you see highs that don't get tested for either ever or for quite some time, it oftentimes can come with volume with big spikes like this. However, the top could come in like 2 days, 20 days, or 3 or 4 months, and not be at much higher levels the further out you go. And then you might see in like 4 or 5, 20 days that this thing has volume 2, 3, 4 times higher than the one we had yesterday. So just because this looks like it's the big volume, all it's done is set that bar, and the bar can be beaten if it gets, well, beaten of course. However, in note, this level of the area of resistance between 3,600 and like 4,000 is kind of big. So it's made the statement. It's made a statement of trying to basically have a big leg higher. It is well overextended on the weekly. For the 18 average of lows is coming in at 1900 and rising. So in time, it should easily get in the 23s. But with that being stated, it's made the statement. It could happen after. It could correct now and go big higher, or it could just go big higher now, meaning a break higher than this is at least around 10,000. So it's made a statement that it's going to be testing that area. We'll now see if it does. And Bitcoin, which is what I usually started off with, 38. Would have been nice if it was 38 cents, but that would have been funny to see. Down 1.59%. So still within this correctionary mode, just to pierce above on this play. It might be a failed attempt in trying to break out, but it still has to fail within this 18 average. And well, coming back to this key area here and congesting within it is, it's fine. It's going to keep it in this correctionary neutral phase from what has been 2 legs higher. And you really don't want to test this level of support again. So any significant higher low from here is what's important. And this one is like, man, it can be lower. It could be, if you make a 37, 6, like 52 low, or a 37.42 low, that's still technically a higher one, and this key one. But that really is, to me, I think, very, very important. That's another way of saying it appears below the 18 is, I mean, it's not like everyone looks, oh, everyone's like, oh, 37.79, that's a front-weighted 18 average of lows. Not even close, not even maybe. I mean, these lines were, I was just fooling around, if anything, or an idea in my head thinking, what if I put in the same period? Because I seen on free stock charts, I had the choice of not just doing closes, but open, high, and low as well. And I thought, yes, why don't I just put in the high and the low? And then I looked at this band like this, and wow, then I tried to generate which number to choose. And I just felt the variety of around this. And I just stuck with 18, mainly because of one video series. And well, that was Ira Epstein, just was fascinated by the 18. And well, I guess if traditional traders all like it, you know what, this number seems fine for me. If you use a 20, you know what, it would probably work just as good. It does, probably. There is no probably about it. It would work relatively about as good. There we go. So it's still in this correctionary phase. A little bit of a U-shaped short term. Can we see any of it? It's like a little bit of a head and shoulders-ish kind of pattern. And that, like, this is sort of the area of the left shoulder, sort of the area of the head, sort of the right shoulder. I mean, that's why it's all sort of. But as far as the 18, you can see the rise, the flatten, the starting to decline. Stage number 2, established support for the second time. It established support here, but it obviously made a new higher high, barely matching. Now, higher low is fine, but establish a level of support. If this thing instantly just breaks down into this area here, then maybe just call it bearish. But I mean, if it goes straight down, I don't know if I'd ever want to be a seller, at least at that short-term time frame. And then, like I say, if it has a correctionary mode on this and this for a little bit, unable to propel anything higher, thus resisting this little area here from in the 38 and 3/4 ballpark. And then you start to see it falling below. Then yeah, you can see that we'll be looking maybe to have what we call that big test mode. And like I said, getting below here, testing in this would be okay, but definitely a lot of concern if it does break down below here, that we still haven't been making any higher highs, really much at all. For to make a higher high, we have to get above this. It matched it here. And when was the last time a higher high has been played? And I can quickly go over some of its history. But in here, all of these were either lower or matching highs. This was a lower high to here. Now in here, this made a higher high attempt. But obviously this was still lower than what the last high would happen to be, which was up in here. And its previous high before that was a little higher, right in here. Its high before that, it had a short-term high at that matching level, but it was this small one, then this one, a whole bunch of in the level lower highs. And here was what's now the all-time high. And before that, price action is in a bull market. You are above the 18 most of the time, and you spend a decent amount of time within the 18 and a very small amount of time below it. That's what bull markets are. Bear market's quite the opposite. So there was a little bit of time below it, but bull markets don't have much of that. In here, spending a lot of time inside of it, no time above it, and a little bit below. But before that, it pretty much spent all of its time above it with a little bit inside, little bit inside. That was an interesting day, but that's all we need to see. That's just, I'm going to move it to today. And is it spending most of the time in a bull market where it's above and, well, it's been above it here. It's been below it here. It's been above it here, and it was below it even a bit before here. So a bit of both, and obviously spends times in it. That's choppy. That's neutral. Overall, though, beforehand, look, this bear market all below. Here we spend little time above. Had a lot of time in it, so this was more of a neutral sense because it had just a little bit below here. Again, choppy, a bit above, a bit below. But during this bear market cycle, you're spending the entire duration of time in that trend. And every single time, it's always been a fight to revert the trend. This inverted head and shoulders pattern broke out, did what it was supposed to do, at least for a leg higher, even a couple legs for that matter, but ultimately failed on its test. And when this thing switches form, we're going to have another great bull market again. And the questions become, and these are the answers I don't even want to try to answer, when, at how much does it, where is the bottom at right now? Bottoms are known after the fact, so it's currently in that of $3,128.89, at least on Coinbase's exchange. It could obviously still go lower, known after the fact. If this thing shoots up to 9,000, 6,000, yeah, that's the low. So the other questions remain: at what price? Again, I just stated that. At what time? At what time does it get going? Because if this is a low, the get going time hasn't happened yet. At least not, well, definitely not now. And then the question is to how high. For some of these answers might be, oh, the low was 675, then it goes up to 2,970. And it could be now and it goes up to 16,000, or it goes up to 46,000 or 279,000. Market will do what it does. Thank you for tuning in. Have yourself a good afternoon, day, morning, evening, wherever it is, whenever it is.